Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at the Romankey Cowl Algar the Last Scion. I enjoyed the Romankey Cowl Gun Girl, that was my first figure from them, so I'm hoping this figure is just as good. I think last I checked it was sold out at a lot of places, but if it's in stock somewhere, I'll put some links in the description. Also, I have a code you can use at GunDamit now if you want to buy anything there. Just enter bio in the support your favorite reviewer box at the top of the website. It's free to you, but it does help support the channel and the reviews quite a bit. But for now, we'll get into this review. First, a quick look at the box. There's some artwork on the front here of Algar's head, and then it says Algar the Last Scion. The Last Scion on the side, Romankey Cowl on the top, some more logos and stickers on that side. Here's some lore that we can't see super well. There it is. You can pause that if you want to read that lore. And some warnings on the bottom. Here, Algar is out of the package. We'll get it out of the way. This isn't the head that comes on him in the package. I was swapping out some parts and getting a feel for the figure and misplaced the head. I don't know what happened. As Robo says, the carpet monster ate it. Scoured the apartment, couldn't find it, so I'll throw a picture up here. And then we'll look at what we got. We'll look at what we have here, and it'll be fine. The head was painted very well, just like this head. The main difference, the eyes didn't have pupils, and the mouth was sculpted open, and it had a peg hole in the back of the mouth for the flamey effect we'll see here in a bit. Same relative sculpt though. Lots of nice paint work on there. Good sculpt work as well. This looks very much like a Dungeons and Dragons Dragonborn, specifically the ones from Baldur's Gate 3. They have this sort of look to them. But I like it a lot. I think it looks very cool. A lot of clean paint work and sculpt work on there. Coming down to the body and the chest, he does have this red line coming down the body. Lots of tiny lines sculpted into the chest, and there is a nice brown or black wash in there to bring out all those details. I love that. The blue on the scales is slightly metallic, so it catches the light well and has a good sheen. There's some purple undertones. You could say he's a little segmented going down the torso, but I think with the scales and everything, it's not too noticeable, and it doesn't really bother me. I don't mind seeing articulation normally. Some like pinkishy purpley highlights on the body there. More great paint and sculpt work down the legs and feet. I wish there was a different joint at the feet, but we'll see more of that in the articulation. But the toes are also painted. Bottom of the feet are even painted and have a wash. Nice wash along the back of the figure as well as on the bottom of this tail. So he's just covered in paint. So I think that's the big draw for this one. Of course, the articulation, but I think the paint's very well done. So great aesthetic on this one. I really enjoy the way he looks. I really like the Dragonborn in Baldur's Gate 3 and their depictions in general. And I think they really did a good job here. It is unlicensed, so it isn't officially that, but close enough. So for accessories, he'll come with this really nice flame effect. It's very translucent, so I like that. And the colors fade from orange to pink to blue. Maybe not quite as subtly as I would have liked. I would have liked a little bit more transition, maybe about this width to fade the colors in a bit more, but I don't think it's bad. And a little bit more opaque paint on the end. There's a tiny peg on this end that would fit in the other mouth that's sculpted to be open and has a has a hole in the back of the jaw, or in the back of the mouth there. He did have a little bit of difficulty holding it up, so I think you might need a display stand for it, because it is a bit heavy on the end here. But otherwise, I think it looks pretty cool. Fist hands will come on him in the package. Open, kind of style posed hands. And I do recommend using heat to swap these out. On the Gun Girl, I did have one peg break. So I wanted to be safe with this one and heated everything up before swapping anything. On that note, real quick, it does come with some extra ball hinges in case you do break anything. And he'll come with a pair of gripping hands. And then to go with those, he has a sword. It's a nice translucent orange with black painted on the edges and the handle there. And a little bit more of that orange exposed on the pommel. Nice sculpt on that. Maybe could have used the wash in the middle to bring out some of these smaller details, but I think they achieved the effect they were going for with kind of a flamey sword. And the hands are soft enough that you can bend the fingies and get him holding it. I say as I struggle with it. Yep. And it's pretty light, so he doesn't have any issues holding it up. He'll come with some soft goods, a skirt, and like a cape thing. For the skirt, there is a metal ring on one side and then a little bendy wire hooky part on the other side. So you can just wrap this around the waist and put this bit through the hook. And then push that down and that will hold it on his waist. And there's a bendy wire running through the seams of this so you can get it posed and kind of windswept. Then for his cape situation, there's a hole on the top and you can slip his head through that or pop the head off if you can't get it over the horns. And it looks a little awkward just sitting there on him, but I think once you get it posed, it's not too bad. These long spindly bits in the back, these have a wire running through them. There's also a wire in the front here. But I think once it's in a pose, it looks pretty cool. And it's nicely tattered. A few loose threads I may need to trim though. And then finally he'll come with a display stand that says Algar, the Last Scion on the bottom. It is a little bit loose out of the package, so you have to tighten that up with a screwdriver. And this doesn't pop out. This is screwed into the bottom there. But it looks pretty nice. So a pretty good spread of accessories. I think both the heads look pretty nice. The sword is good. Don't really know what other sort of hands, maybe like a clawing hand or something would have been nice. Overall, I think it's pretty cool. If you get the flamey version, instead of the soft goods, it has like a bit of flames that go around the shoulders. On to articulation. At the head, there's a double ball peg, and the head will look up about this much and down this much, kind of just looking straight ahead. But then there's another joint in the neck, and with that he can look down a ton. And I don't think it looks up much further than where I had it. No, it just stays right there. The head does sit in the neck rather than on top of the neck. So from some angles, when you have it bent back like this, you can see into the neck hole. You can kind of pose it away, but in some positions it's pretty obvious. So a small criticism there, I suppose. Like poses like that, it's might be a little bit harder. You'll have to kind of really situate it. But I guess I would rather have the articulation than not have it and just be able to pose away the gapping. I think it's just getting used to the head sitting in the neck rather than on top of the neck like I'm used to. For the shoulders, there is a butterfly joint that will let the arms go back just a smidge forward. Quite a bit, actually. So he can get reaching across the chest like that. And the joint's sculpted throughout, so if you don't pull it out too far, it looks pretty nice and relatively seamless. The shoulders have a hinge and will go up just to about horizontal. I think that's mainly because they didn't want to disrupt the sculpt at the top of the shoulder there. Oh, also at the head, the jaw moves on this head, but if you open it too far, it'll just fall off. And it just has two little pegs on the side there. So really, he can just open his mouth about that much. And if you want his mouth open any more than that, you'll have to swap to the open mouth, yelling, fire-breathing head. There's a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows that get really good range, ball hinge wrists, so no issues there. At the waist, I think it's a similar situation to the Gun Girl setup where there's a ball peg down here at the waist, and then in the torso a double ball peg, and then this like floating piece in the center. So leaning back, you can lean back very far, a little bit of gapping in the chest, but you can pose that away. You can also lean forward quite a bit, and then with the neck leaning forward, ton of range hunched over there. The jaw does get annoying, if I'm honest. Some side to side tilt. Again, a little bit of gapping. And rotation. Most of that rotation's on the upper diaphragm joint because it's rounder, and down at the bottom it's more of an oval shape, but you can see you can get him rotated very far around. Get him resituated there. The hips will go out. Not quite fully horizontal. He can almost do the splits, but not quite there. Can kick forward this much. And back all the way. No sculpted butt cheeks on this. The butt cheek is just on the leg joint itself. That's how I prefer the legs to be, because then there are no limitations. So you can get him kicking whichever way you want. There's a thigh swivel that's a little bit stiff. Double jointed knees. I get about this much range. And at the feet, let's get this tail out of the way. There's a ball hinge that will go back only about that much forward, only about that much, and then just a little bit of an ankle rocker. So he could have better range in the feet for sure. And then in the tail, this is soft and has a bendy wire in it. I think the bendy wire is, it's like in this section. It's not all the way up to the butt, and it's not all the way to the end. You can get a decent bend out of it. It does warn you in the instructions not to bend it back and forth too much. So maybe be a little cautious, but you can get some decent poses out of it. And I think it works pretty well. So pretty good articulation. The only things I'm disappointed by are this jaw that falls off constantly, and the ankles. I wish they did the ankles like Savage Crucible does theirs. Let me show that real quick. So rather than having the foot sculpted all the way up here, maybe if they did something like this where there's a cut down here, more like the foot's a shoe, and then it can get a bit more range and swivel and such. Or like how the Naruto figures do their ankles, where there's a ball peg right at the ankle there, and then the cut down at the foot. So then you've got the hinge forward and back, and a little bit of wiggle on that ball, and you still get a ton of ankle rocker. For sizing comparisons, Algar is standing at about 6.5 inches to the top of his head and closer to 7 to the top of his horns. Here he is next to a Savage Crucible Lizard. This is the Shield of Dezera and the Romankey Cowl Gun Girl. The Romankey Cowl figures are definitely a bit closer to that 7-inch scale rather than a true 1/12 scale. I don't remember what they specifically advertised though. I think if you like Savage Crucible figures or lizards in general, he's going to fit in well with those. Here he is next to the Mezco Alistair Gangrene and Crab Louie. Every time I see Alistair through the viewfinder here, I tell myself I'm going to cut these loose threads, and then I just forget. And here he is with a SH Figuarts Naruto and Marvel Legends X-Men 97 Nightcrawler. Overall, I think he's a pretty cool figure. There's really good articulation, especially in the torso. Great sculpt work and paint. A couple annoying things like the jaw falling off and the ankles could be better. He's maybe a little bit light on accessories as well. I think maybe I would have liked if it came with another weapon or some more hands or something. I don't know, it just feels like not a ton of accessories for the price. The closest comparison, for me at least, is the Savage Crucible Lizards, because there's not a ton of other companies doing lizards. And I think for the price, those might be a better value. They also have great sculpt and paint and a little bit more accessories. So I think if you just want a lizard, might be better just to go with one of those. But if you really like the look of this guy, or you really want a D&D or Baldur's Gate 3 style Dragonborn, then I don't think you're going to be disappointed if you get this one. Hopefully I'm able to find the head I lost. If not, I kind of like the option to have the more neutral head, or at least the one with the pupils anyway, I suppose. But still a bit disappointing. If you want to pick this up, I'll have some links below if I can find it in stock anywhere. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing. Don't forget to like. Perhaps leave a comment down below, even if it's just like a lizard emoji or something. It helps with the algorithm a lot. I hope you have a great day. Remember to be kind to yourself and others, and I'll see you next time. Here he is next to a biscuit butt. You know, pretty standard. Pretty standard scale for a lizard next to a biscuit butt, I think. All right, we'll do a treat time. Little bisky. Biscuit's getting so big, you probably can't really tell. But she's so close to the camera, but she's really sprouting up there. Poaches. Porchy had a bad day. She had to go to the vet for her UTI checkup. Luckily, everything's okay. But she just doesn't like going to the vet. You spit out your treats. Is this a protest? A review protest?